I'm so sorry, ma'am. I know you need this medicine, but it looks like it's not covered by your insurance.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to deny that one.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your insurance company's pharmacy benefit manager. I get paid based on the price of a medicine, and I don't make as much money off this one.
No one should stand between you and your medicine. Visit phrma.org/middleman to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
Brianna Sacks of The Washington Post has gotten used to covering climate disasters. But even she's been shocked by what's happened on Maui over the last couple of weeks.
Most everyone, even emergency preparedness and disaster experts I talked to, didn't think it would be this bad.
Just a few days ago, Brianna was keeping an eye on Maui by monitoring fire Twitter, digitally listening in as emergency responders worried about wind speeds and drought conditions.
And then we woke up and the death toll went from 6 to 36, and I was on a plane. So I was totally caught off guard.
Paradise in flames in Hawaii, where incredibly fast-moving...
There are more than 100 people reported dead now. That makes Maui's fires the deadliest in the last century.
This fire spread so fast that some people were actually forced to jump into the ocean to escape the flames.
The historic downtown of Lahaina is all but destroyed.
Locals who lost everything still in a daze, trying to connect with loved ones and scrambling to find a place to live.
And it's like such a cliche that in disasters now, the phrase is, it looks like a bomb went off, but that is truly what it looks like. Like, it's like, you know, these palm trees are just black and charred, like the cars are just left with doors ajar.
And this is a place that's beautiful.
Oh, it's still beautiful. That's the weird part about it, right? Like, I mean, there's a distinct block where the fire stopped, and then it's Maui.
It's not that Maui's never experienced fires. There was a big fire just a few years back, but not like this. For me, it's hard to imagine the scale of Maui's loss. But Brianna's got the opposite problem. She's seen this kind of devastation again and again in California, in Colorado. She's already asking, who's to blame?
So my passion is going in to the aftermath of disasters, but I've now, since I've covered so many, my brain automatically goes to accountability because we just know better at this point.
Did anything go right in Hawaii's response to these fires?
I mean, I would say I don't know yet. There's fires still burning here. I don't know if anything went right yet.
Today on the show, did Maui have to burn? I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming. Like when your favorite podcast is playing and the person next to you is talking and your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try, and you might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive and collision coverage or personal injury protection. Then you'll see Progressive's direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies, all lined up and ready to compare, so it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates. Quote at Progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I know you need this medicine, but it looks like it's not covered by your insurance.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to deny that one.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your insurance company's pharmacy benefit manager. I get paid based on the price of a medicine, and I don't make as much money off this one.
No one should stand between you and your medicine. Visit phrma.org/middleman to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
The story of the disaster in Maui is really the story of multiple overlapping disasters. First, the dry conditions on the island, then a hurricane offshore that whipped up the wind. All of these things came together late at night on Monday, August 7th, when the first fire got sparked in northern Maui.
It's windy, and then there's a flash. And I think
there's actually security camera footage of what happened here, because this fire started at a bird sanctuary. The people running the place were watching carefully to protect the wildlife. That flash of light, it's called an arc flash. It's what happens when a power line comes into contact with vegetation, causing an electrical explosion called a fault.
The camera comes back online, and then the forest is on fire.
The thing Brianna and others have chronicled over the last week is how often this pattern got repeated all over Maui, seeming to cause one conflagration after another. The details are always the same. A flash, the power going off briefly, and then fire. South of that bird sanctuary in Lahaina, Brianna met with a woman who saw the same thing hours later.
She was like, well, I woke up at 3 a.m. to this bright light. And then I kind of went back to sleep. And then the power went out at 5. I think it was around 5 a.m. That's what all kind of the residents said, 4 or 5 a.m. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. And so that turns out that was also another arc flash. And I obtained data from this company called Whisker Labs. And I had them give me chronologically when all the faults occurred on the island in certain areas. So in Lahaina, starting at 11:38 to 5 a.m., there was 34 faults. And remember, a fault means that vegetation comes in contact with a line can fall down. The equipment emitter at the bottom, that could have a problem. Any of those faults could be an ignition source. So you have 34 that maybe could have started something. So I had them look around the 3 a.m. hour to see if there was a fault at that time. And there was. There were 2:44 and 3:30. So that kind of fits with her story.
Already, multiple lawsuits have been filed against Hawaiian Electric, alleging that with the high winds, they should have just shut off power in Maui to protect people. Reporters are asking this question, too.
Why didn't you shut off the power when the wind started to pick up?
We're still looking at all the information, and we haven't actually had a chance to do all of that at this time.
With all due respect, it's been 6 days, though, so almost 6 days.
And we've been putting everything we've got to helping our communities right now.
Your reporting actually shows that the power company in Hawaii seemed to understand that the grid was in a dangerous place, like way before these fires broke out. Like they'd even reviewed what happened in 2018 with California's Camp Fire, the one that killed 85 people. And they basically said, okay, like in a filing with the state, part of what might be successful in a wildfire situation is shutting off the power.
Right.
Right?
Right. And to their defense, not defense, but these public power shutoff programs, they're brutal. Like, it is a big trade-off. It's aggressive. It incurs a lot of blowback from people. You're asking, think about everything power runs,
Right, like if you have a machine that, helps you stay alive in some way that you need to plug in, that's a big deal.
Right, you need to get a generator. I live in LA and California started doing these, and they are not fun, but when you think about the number of lives that they probably save, I think it's a world we're going to live in now, especially after this, that we are going to be used to living without power for a day, 2 days.
As a protection measure.
It's a protection measure. It's like for the greater good, right? And the way that these winds keep increasing due to climate change, it's not going away.
You're saying Maui's a warning.
I'm saying Maui's a big warning, and it shouldn't have been, because there was all these reports that Maui and Hawaii was increasingly fire prone. Like, they have a wildfire organization. That organization had been putting reports out. The federal government noted it as a high-risk zone. So there were all these pieces there, and I do think it's going to be a warning for utility companies that we have to start putting infrastructure underground. It's expensive. Nobody wants to do it. But the number of fires now that have been started by electrical equipment that have killed people, I think it's just something that they're going to have to eat and start doing.
To be clear, we don't know. Like, there's no proof yet that a power line caused the fires that have been so deadly in Maui.
Correct.
It's just that there's a lot of indications that that is probably the case, partially because there weren't lightning strikes. So the question is, what would be setting things on fire in the first place?
That and like arson is, still could happen, but just the way and the times that the fires started, and the fact that multiple fires started around the similar time near power lines, again, we don't know for sure, but it's the closest we have come to definitively saying that there was this problem with the grid. Something happened to a line that was recorded, and then it recorded a fire starting exactly in that spot shortly after.
We'll be back after a break.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. No matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take your business to the next level. Shopify is the commerce platform that makes it easy to show up and sell exactly the way you want to. No need to code or design. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period today. Visit shopify.com/offer23 to get started.
Hey, friend, before you hit fast forward through this ad, let me just bend your ear a tick and tell you all about Slate Plus, Slate's membership program. You know that What Next is going to be here for you, whether there's big breaking news or whether you just want to hear about a story you might have missed. Basically, we've got you totally covered. And we're here thanks to Slate. If you want to support us, and I know you do, the best way to do that is to join Slate Plus. It'll get you all connected with Slate's award-winning journalism. You'll get ad-free podcasts. You'll get Plus exclusive content on shows like Slow Burn and Political Gabfest. And you'll never hit a paywall on the Slate site. Every new membership helps ensure we can continue bringing you the biggest stories each week. So go on, hit the pause button and go to slate.com/whatnextplus. Again, that's slate.com/whatnextplus. All right, on with the show. It's not just the electric company that's getting tough questions after these fires. There are also questions about Hawaii's emergency response. Like, why was the fire department spread so thin? And why weren't more people told to evacuate? Maui actually has a siren system, which is meant to alert people during emergencies. But for some reason, it never sounded, which means many people had little warning as fires spread across some parts of the island last Tuesday.
Yeah, so it's chaos. There's 3 fires burning. There's electrical lines down, some of which are live. And we know that because of the Maui County bulletins that are getting put out warning people like, hey, this road is having issues. There's down trees. There's down power lines. Power is out by this time everywhere. And at this point, the black smoke is so thick, people are having trouble seeing. There is no alarm system. There's no siren going off. The police are like driving around trying to get people out of their homes using megaphones in wind that you can't hear anything anyway. People don't know where to go. People are running into the ocean. They're trying to get out on one road, and it's chaos.
There was also an early report that the fire in Lahaina was contained, right? And then later it was definitely not contained?
Yeah, so that's a big issue for people because at this time, there are now 3 fires burning at the same time. I don't know historically when Maui's fire department, which is not a wildland fire department also, it's a city fire department. And city fire is much different than wildfire. They are used to responding to one structure fire, helping people out in emergencies, right? So they're trying to canvass 3 different fires, and they only have 10 fire stations on the island spread out, and they're already thinly resourced.
So were they even able to declare a fire contained, or do they even No.
So contained is different than put out. The fact that they said it was contained and then they left. So that's an area that people are upset about, because if a fire is contained, it's not out. So there should still be people there making sure it's contained. There weren't. I've gotten conflicting reports. People said that they put it out and they kind of watched it for maybe a little bit, and then they left and they were like, okay, we're good. So yes, they left and it was 100% contained. They went to fight the Kula fire, which was moving quickly. They ran out of water because they were putting so much on these fires. And I think by the next morning, early Wednesday, August 9th, it becomes clear how devastating and how widespread this fire got.
So now we're speaking about a week after this. What's the situation today?
I mean, there's still so much shock and trauma. Obviously, people are still in response mode. It's still an active search.
Are things still burning?
Things are still burning. Yeah, firefighters are still fighting the Kula fire.
That's in the northern part of the island?
Correct. That's the northern part of the island. And that is a bit, the terrain is kind of what we think about normally for wildfire. It's rugged. It's a bit harder to access. It's up in the hills. I was with residents, 3 days ago now, all the days blend together, but in 2 separate locations, they had to run and put out spot fires near their home. In Lahaina, I was talking to a group of people, and all of a sudden they start running. And I'm like, why are we all running? And I follow them, and there's a spot fire that popped up in these dry grasses, which the firefighters had kind of bulldozed to bury what could be embers or anything. And one of them had caught back fire again. So they're taking rakes and putting them out themselves. The same thing's happening up in Kula. So it's still a very active situation here. They're still looking for bodies. They haven't finished even remotely close to searching all the rest of the homes and area that burnt. And then, there's like the Kula fire is 75% contained and the Lahaina fire is 85% contained. So there's firefighters still on the ground. They probably haven't slept. It's difficult. It's people don't know where their family members are, and they probably won't for weeks.
It sounds like so many things went wrong when it came to fighting these fires. But there's, of course, other stuff happening that was out of human control, like the winds were over 70 miles an hour from that hurricane offshore.
Yes.
I guess what I'm asking is, was this a confluence of disasters? Could things have gone better?
I mean, I think it definitely was a confluence of disasters. And, people have told me the quote unquote like perfect storm of things all at the same time that went together. And Hawaii has been invaded by these grasses that are very fire prone.
Are they native?
They are not native, no. So there's a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of bitterness, but there's an undercurrent of it goes back to colonization, and that this was their land, and that we came in and we brought all these invasive things, and that that has taken over their land, and it's caused this.
And we haven't even gotten into climate change yet.
And they're worried about land grabbing, because that's something they've had to fend off for years and years. This land is theirs. It's sacred. It's theirs. There's families have owned it for generations. A lot of the homes were multi-generational families where they all lived together, and that's how they could afford to be here. And now they're so concerned that these developers, which does happen, we're seeing it in Florida after Ian, they swoop in and they put down big money and they buy up all this land and they put resorts up. And they don't want this, beautiful historical area, Lahaina and Kula. Kula is not a tourist town. There's no resorts there. It's like this beautiful, special little community that is kind of off, the beaten path. And they don't want it to become just this place where it's just like caters to tourists. So there's a lot of tension here. There's a lot of grief. There are a lot of complicated, historical experiences that they feel that kind of set them up for this.
You've written about how there was actually a fire in Maui just a few years back, but that for some reason it doesn't seem to have been a warning sign, or maybe not enough of a warning sign because of what just happened. Like, I guess I wonder, do you think that this fire will be different from that one?
How could it not? I mean, when you think about like just the loss of life, I think that this is going to be a massive pivot. And I talked to the National Fire Administrator. You know, she was just giving me, and these conversations are already happening. She said they're already talking about how, from a firefighting perspective, at least, that they can be better prepared. And that could, I want to know, how were these Maui Fire Department firefighters trained? In conditions like this in California, we have learned to pre-station crews in high-risk areas. Had that been a conversation? Like, was there ever a thought about like, hey, this is happening, this is really dry, like, should we wet the grasses down? Should we go cut these grasses? Should we put firefighters there just to watch in case anything pops up? Like, I want to know, did any of these conversations occur?
Brianna, I'm super grateful for your time and your reporting. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for letting me ramble on and keeping me on track.
Brianna Sacks is a reporter covering climate change and extreme weather for The Washington Post. And that's the show. What Next is produced by Paige Osborne, Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Madeline Ducharme, and Anna Phillips. We are led by Alicia Montgomery with a little boost from Susan Matthews. Ben Richmond is the Senior Director of Podcast Operations here at Slate. And I'm Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you back here on Monday.